hottest of the county, we're cops and barber. Interviewing everybody, sister, brothers, and mamas. It's Portia.
Hi, welcome to Portia Takes on the Baby. As you guys can see, I done went natural for a week. I know, it's not gonna last. I'll be back in the weave real soon. But for today, it is important that you guys see the first African-American chief of police from the city of Tuscaloosa, but he's from the Black Belt of Alabama, baby. I hope you enjoyed tonight's show. See you soon. All right, we have in front of us history. Chief Anderson, thank you so much for doing the show. We appreciate it so much. So just tell us who you are. Who are you?
My name is Stephen Anderson. I grew up in Uniontown, Alabama, went to R.C. Hatch High School, and graduated from R.C. Hatch, came to Tuscaloosa to attend the University of Alabama, and after graduation, decided I liked it enough that I'd stay and apply with the police department here, and got hired by the police department, and have been with the police department for more than 22 years now.
Okay, so you started just as a officer.
Yes, ma'am. I started as a patrol officer riding in a black and white patrol car, working a beat.
Wow. And you've gone over. So when Mayor Maddox got into office and he offered you position, what was your thing? Were you like great, or were you kind of reluctant? Like, what was your attitude about that?
Well, when I first found out that the position was coming open, I had to do some praying because I had only been here about 14 years at the time.
Okay.
And he put out the requirements of the job and what type of things that he was looking for in the individual and the minimum requirements of education and all of those things. And so I knew I met the requirements, but I was very young at the time. I'd been at the department about 14 years, the job and everything. I didn't give it a whole lot of thought after that. And so then we went through the interview process, and there were 13 of us that were interviewed, and 3 were from within the department, myself being the third person.
Right.
So I went through the interview process, and I actually didn't feel like I did too well in the interview. And this interview was not with the mayor, but the interview was with the city attorney, the human resource director, and
wow.
the city clerk. They did the interview.
Okay.
And so once they completed the interview, they cut it down to 6 individuals, and then from there was another round of interviews, and it was cut down to 3 individuals. And I made the first cut, and I made the second cut.
Wow.
So the last 3 of us that were left, we went before the mayor for individual interviews. Had like a lunch in his office and an interview over lunch and everything like that. And I left that interview thinking I did really well. And so probably about a week or 2 after the interview, I got a call from the mayor, and he said that he wanted me to come to dinner at the Capstone Sheraton, and I was going to be having dinner with him, Councilman Harrison Taylor, who's the council president,
right.
and the city clerk and the city attorney. And so I was thinking, well, maybe this is just another
round, right?
And stuff, and he wants for me to talk to all of them. I didn't know that I had the job at that time. And so when I showed up that night for that interview, it was probably about 7 o'clock at night, and we were in one of the ballrooms over there. And they had a nice dinner prepared, and I sat down at the dinner prepared to talk about whatever the kind of questions they had for me. And they told me at that time that I'd been selected as chief, and that the following day he was going to make the announcement to the media and everything. And so that's kind of how everything went, and I became chief of police.
Now, most people, especially some people in the African American community, have a negative stigma on police officers. Being an African American as well as a police officer, how can you somehow bridge a gap of people not having that fear and also the service in which you provide to the community?
It takes being very visible in the community, being out at a lot of community events, building relationships with people, communicating with people, listening to their concerns, and genuinely showing them that you care about the problems that they're having. It's very challenging being an African American male and being a police
right.
officer, especially with all the issues that have gone on in the last couple of years involving law enforcement. But my approach has always been is to talk to people, be willing to listen to what they have to say, and maybe not necessarily have to agree with them, but at least be willing to listen and understand and see it from their perspective. Doesn't mean at the end of the conversation we're going to agree, but at least I'm giving them a platform and an ability to speak their mind and say what's on their mind. And I also believe in building strong relationships, and so I do a lot of community events here in Tuscaloosa with a lot of different community groups, and just being visible out there and trying to work with the community to bridge the gap between law enforcement and especially the black community.
Okay. Now, well, being from Uniontown, and knowing, if you go home visit your mom and seeing the plight there, what could be your advice for someone having interest in law enforcement in that region? And I know you're not there on day to day, but just an observation on what they can do to try to improve that area in law enforcement terms.
Knowing what I know from having grown up in Uniontown, one thing that my parents always stressed with me, my brother and sister, was if you get an education, get a good education, it can take you anywhere you want to go. But without that education, you're going to be doomed, and you're not going to have a lot of options available to you.
Okay.
And so they stress education to us growing up. And that's what I would tell anybody. If you're in Uniontown, just because you live in Uniontown, you live in Perry County, you're in the Black Belt, and there's so much negativity surrounding
Right.
the Black Belt and poverty in the Black Belt and the quality of education and the quality of life, just because you might find yourself growing up in that circumstance, you can get out of that circumstance. And the way to do it is through education. And you can leave there and you can go anywhere in the world if you get the proper education. As far as people that are interested in law enforcement, it starts with education. No matter where I go, I tell people, if you can't read and write and understand, you're not going to be able to do this job.
Wow.
This job is not a very hard job, but you have to have the ability to be able to communicate effectively, and that comes from being able to read, to write, to be able to do the important things. I mean, you don't have to be a genius in math. You don't have to understand calculus and trigonometry to do this job. You don't have to understand chemistry and physics to do this job, but you have to be able to understand how to communicate with people. And being able to communicate with people comes a lot from the interactions that you have with them growing up. I mean,
Right.
you know, we have gotten to a point in our society where people feel like if you offend me, I'm going to fight you.
Right.
And we get on social media and we put all this stuff out there. That's not how the real world works. When you get out in the real world and you're in a business environment, you're going to have conflicts and disagreements with people.
Amen.
You cannot challenge them to meet you at the park to
No.
fight or at the mall to fight. You have to be able to work through those differences. And a lot of times you're going to have to work through those differences because you all need each other
Right.
in order
To be
to make it.
successful.
Yeah.
Right. That's definitely true. One of the things that I came in to do some training for you guys, and I see different between you and other departments, and especially in the region because we are focused in the Black Belt. I had someone to ask me a question to ask you, if you don't mind. And one of the things, he is someone who's interested in law enforcement, but he doesn't want to leave the Black Belt. But he has ideas, and you said that you started off in the beat to where you were the chief of police, and I know you had to have a plan of action. How can someone who's starting off where you started off at, as a patrol person, and then work their way up in that field? Like you said, you was captain before you came chief. How can someone, once you talked about getting in and going through your classes and everything you have to do, and then you're in now. How can someone move up that ladder and get to the level in which you are at?
When I first started at the police department, I came in and I knew what I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted to be a Tuscaloosa police officer, and I knew that I didn't want to just be a patrol officer, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I knew that I had a lot more that I could offer to this department. So I came up with a plan and I set goals for myself, and at the time when I first started working here, we had a 25-year retirement. So my plan was every 5 years that I was going to be improving and getting to one of my goals. And so in the first 5 years, my first goal was that after being here 5 years, I was going to go to homicide, because that was a place that I had an interest in working.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so I worked hard, and that's the thing, you got to work hard. I mean, you can't just be average, and you have to do things to stand out from the crowd. So I will get out here and I will work hard. I treated people fairly, but I was out here working hard. If you were doing wrong, I was coming after you and I was looking for you and stuff. And so I worked hard, and that got me noticed. I mean, I made sure that my reports were good. I came to work on time, that I did what I was supposed to. I took my assignment seriously, and that got me noticed. And so I got an opportunity after being here 2 years to go to homicide.
Wow.
So I accomplished the first goal set for 5 years. I accomplished that in 2 years.
We had to stop right there because we got to get you back next week. So we're going to come back, and I'm just going to give you a sneak peek of some of the things we're going to be talking about next week.
Some are younger than I am and hadn't been here as long, so I'm leading those individuals and everything for a little over 13 years.
Right.
And I just don't think that I should put in for this position. and everything. And they're like, you should put in for the position. Nobody dissuade you from your dreams. If you have a dream of something that you want to do, you need to work really hard.
Thank you for tuning in. See you next week. Bye-bye.
This is another Too Cool production.
Well, the kingdom is my business, but now this right here is